So a few weeks ago, an ops manager came to me and asked me to help out their operations. His big goal for this year was to increase efficiency and productivity by 20%. But his big pain points was about trucks getting in and out and just increasing that. And that is the biggest bottleneck. In this story, I'm going to tell you about how I started understanding his operations and that 20% mark and how we could increase productivity and efficiency by about 60%. So we're going to go through the mistakes he was making and the troubles the operations were having. And if you're having these same issues and mistakes come up at your facility, this is going to help you out exponentially. So when we started sitting down and started walking through what was happening day to day, his big thing was that there was a lot of trucks waiting there and a lot of forms that need to be filled out so that things wouldn't get stolen, lost, and also for compliance reasons. So he was right. There was a lot of forms. I think they had about 10 to 15 different forms depending on the customer or the load that's coming in. As I started dissecting that, there was a long lineup of trucks. But what started coming out was as soon as a truck would come in to one spot of the facility, it actually bottleneck off everything else. No other trucks could come in and out. And a lot of times the driver would stop there, either chop up their load or actually start doing some paperwork or things like that, and it would bottleneck the whole yard. That was one of the first things I was like, well, this is interesting. You need to tell me a little bit more about the trucks and why there is only one spot. So as he's going through it, he dropped another hint to me. He's like, yeah, but when we have a tanker, I'm like, sorry, was the other trucks that are coming in and out, were those tankers, were those vans, were those flatbeds? He's like, yeah, we do all those. We have dump trailers. I'm like, okay, hang on a second. So you've got 5 different types of trucks coming in and out of your facility? He's like, yeah. Well, and do they all go to the same spot? Are they all taking the same amount to load? He's like, well, no, they take different times. We can only have, I think he said about 3 different tankers at the same time throughout the day. And that's causing the bottlenecks. I'm like, okay, so you've got to do these forms, you got different trucks, and it's first come, first serve. That's when I was like, how are you spreading out these loads? Because you can't do all these tankers at once, can't have all these vans at once. Even if you could, you don't have the personnel to do that. So why are you still doing first come, first serve? And his answer was the exact same as everyone else's, like, we can't do that. It's impossible for us to move to some sort of appointment-based. So what I started doing was walking him through why you need to go to appointment-based. Because with appointments, now we can start limiting tankers to 3 per day, vans for 4 per hour, making sure that flatbeds are going in the right side, all automatically. I think that was the biggest thing is not only is it going to be a lot of work if someone were to actually try to figure out, okay, we can only do, these types of loads at this time. That's a lot of organization, a lot onto the team that didn't have the time to do that. Using some software to just completely optimize that is going to make their life so much easier. So I'm like, here. So now we're going to limit that you can only have, let's call it 12 trucks at any given time, 1 tanker, 4 vans, whatever that looked like at that point. And when your customers and carriers are booking, they're now spraying up those loads. So now we've eliminated that huge lineup of trucks coming in and out. You've got that bottleneck where 1 truck can only go through. Now we're going to start splitting that off where tankers actually don't need to go through that side of it. And we're going to make sure that 1 truck knows exactly where they're going. It's all automated where they get all their information sent to them so that they're not waiting there. They're not dealing with their loads, trying to tie things down, that sort of thing, blocking everyone off. So right there is like, we're probably up to a 40% win. Now, the next part of it was what he actually came to us and was asking about was like, well, we need to have a better process for signing these trucks in because currently they park off the side, they got to walk in, talk to someone. That person now has to figure out where they're going, what is open currently, paperwork, make sure they fill that out. So he wasn't wrong in that sense. By using something electronic where they can have everything kind of optimized based on the certain type of load or customer or things like that, that just streamlined it 100%. So taking a step back, taking a look at this, we now have changed the way their operation would have worked. It would have completely increased their operations and flow by, I'm saying 60%, if not more at the end of the day, which really crushes their 20%. So through this whole process, I started seeing his mind change a little bit and shift. You could see him be like, okay, well, maybe we can actually do an appointment-based system instead of first come, first serve. He's starting to see what would happen on how to deal with those loads and optimize them and getting that flow a little bit better. The biggest thing, though, at the end of the day is that now you have to have that shift in operations. You now have to go to your team and say, hey, we're going to do things a little bit different or try it a little differently and see how things kind of turn out. This is where things start falling apart from our side when this is such a big shift. You got to remember at the beginning of the story, when he first came to talk to me, he wasn't sure about actually having appointments, actually getting trucks in and out that way. First come, first serve is the only way they can do it. So we have to shift the way he kind of thinks so that he can get that 20%, which again, I think is a low number on that side of things. And we had to do a whole bunch of walkthroughs and kind of getting him on side. This is where it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, because I can see how much we can help them. And when I'm talking to him, I see he understands the value of, yeah, this actually will work. But 2 weeks later, he comes back to me and he says, you know what? I can see that, but I don't think we're ready for that. And it just crushes me because I know for a fact that if we would get in there, help them, we could turn around efficiency so much to that side. We hear this a lot of people that are not ready to actually come in, make these different tweaks and changes. And it's heartbreaking because we can see how much we would actually help them at the end of the day. If you have a story like that, or you're dealing with that, because I've been in organizations where they're like, yeah, we can make these changes, even getting rid of first come, first serve, which doesn't seem like a lot, but to some people it is. We'd love to hear about that from your side. Please leave us a comment below. So what can you learn from this story? First of all, first come, first serve is really, really hard on your facility as a whole. The other is not having enough space within a facility, which is very common. For either your yard's too small or you can't have enough trucks on the facility's grounds to do what you're trying to do. Long dwell times because of non-compliance and checklists and things that you have to do on loads, making sure that you're fitting in whatever you have to do with your customers or for legal reasons. With space constraints, the lineup of trucks, the biggest thing you can do is just get more organized. Getting to appointments is going to help your facility so much because you have this issue that you're facing, and the only way to actually fix it is by making sure that you're spreading out those loads as efficiently as possible. And that right there is going to help with that congestion or that issue with the city or the township with those trucks waiting outside. Long dwell times. One of the biggest things is making sure that you're set up correctly for whatever's coming in or out. So in this story, we had a bunch of checklists and information that we had to fill out. So making sure that that's streamlined as possible, making sure that you know what's coming in that day. So again, having those booked loads so that you say, all right, we have this load coming in. Here's the paperwork that we need for when this load shows up. Easy win on that side. But on the other side of the whole thing is when you're actually unloading it and you have to do the quality control or non-compliance on that you have a nice area and staging that's knocking in the way that you can deal and isolate with certain types of items in the load if there are issues. So making sure that that whole operation is really, really smooth and you have the space needed for what you need to do on the other side of the compliance or non-compliance. The other pain point that we were facing in that story is having one truck blocking off all the other trucks. Now, sometimes you can get around that with having different routes on your facility, but a lot of times we know we're kind of dealing with what we're dealt at the end of the day. So making sure that communication with the drivers is really, really good and effective is an important part of dealing with that scenario. So lots of signage up, making sure that they understand where they can actually sit idle, deal with their loads or their paperwork. Really important. Having some sort of system where you can automate sending off notifications to the driver saying, hey, this is not part of health and safety. You cannot stay here. You have to stay in your trucks. And then when the load is completely loaded or unloaded, automatic notification going to that driver to say, hey, you've been released. You're good to go. You can do all your paperwork over on this side, making sure that that communication is over communication at the end of the day, that that driver knows exactly where they're going. And there is no question of them stopping in the middle of the road, blocking everyone else off. Datadog does this really well. We really help automate process and notifications to drivers and flow of goods of appointments getting booked. I'd love to hear some stories from you. If you got stories like this, or you're trying to implement something along these lines and you're dealing with these pain points, please book a demo with us. Let us know what's going on. We love hearing those stories and we love trying to help out people in that same scenario. If you're looking to optimize your facility more, we have another video on how warehouse managers can be more productive.